Okay, so I'm John Meister, owner and technical director at SuperSoul. I was going to share some tools that we use for some of the games that we're working on, like Piggy Ball, which is we're working on for PC and consoles, and Kentucky Dash, which we're doing for just consoles and PCs, but as well for mobile. So I wanted to talk a bit about sort of the asset store libraries and things that we've used for that, and just give some advice on maybe when you're looking at those options. So one of the reasons that you might want to buy an asset pack specifically for Unity is that it saves a lot of time. You kind of have to decide whether building this big elaborate system from scratch is worth your time. If you can buy it for $10, $15, maybe it's worth it to just go ahead and save that time that you could be using to work on your game. The other thing is maybe you can get a higher quality kind of resources, art, or code than you could do yourself. Or maybe you're just wanting to learn how those, a lot of times I'll get an asset to kind of learn how they structured the code and how they approach the problem. And so when I'm researching a new thing, a lot of times we can look at other stuff that people have done. I would recommend that if you are getting especially some code or a programming system that you're going to use in your game, that you get the source code for that. Some of them will just kind of include binaries that you can't look at the code. And for a couple reasons, mainly that you can maintain it yourself. So a lot of times someone will make something and put it on the store and then they don't support it. They get a day job or something and then they can't continue to work on it. So having that code you can keep updating. You can also again learn how the code works and use that for future projects. The other thing is I would recommend most of the good products out there have demos that you can play, games that are built with a system, and they have documentation, and a lot of them have tutorials. So you can actually look at the code and how it works even before you've purchased it. So these are kind of small, but I was going to go through these. I did not get any kickback, anything for these. So this is all just kind of stuff we found on our own and are actually using. So Rewired is a big one for input. Input is okay in Unity, but if you're wanting to do things like rumble or light up the PlayStation 4 controller or detect disconnect and reconnection events, which you have to do on consoles. Rewired is really good at that. It has all these different configurations for all the different types of controllers out there, and it's also different on different operating systems. So they've just put in a lot of time and effort into this that you could avoid having to do with something like this. Another good one is InControl. InControl is one we started with in the past, but Rewired had some other stuff like button remapping that we wanted to have. I2 localization, this is for localizing and translating your game into different languages. It basically has a system where you can have text key value, kind of like this is the player's name, and then you can have that with different text for different languages. This system was pretty nice in that you could actually even hit a button and it would try to go and do Google Translate and stuff. We ended up mostly taking their kind of layout and exporting to a spreadsheet, updating the spreadsheet and bringing it back in. But I felt like how it connected to Unity worked pretty well. Another one that we use for audio is Meister Audio. Meister Audio is it's just built on top of normal Unity audio system, but it does additional stuff like sound banks. So you can have a set of sounds and you just say play a random sound in this sound bank. I've implemented this a few times, and it's just worth it to just not have to do that and use their system that's already built that does all kinds of stuff like music and playlist kind of mixing and stuff like that. You could go to something like Fmod, but this is somewhere in between. It has more features, but it's not as complex as say Fmod. And it's, I think, cheaper. This is only $40 compared to, I think Fmod is a little more. Another one is build report. we use this to, when it compiles the project and builds it out, we're able to look at all the details of which files are included, how big they are. You can say what's taking the most space. This is really important for like mobile games. Like you might accidentally include a video file or something that you didn't mean to, or there's some chain of dependencies that make it get added to your game. So being able to look at these reports and see where things are, which files are being included, and that kind of thing is really helpful for tracking down space usage. Another one we use is 2D Toolkit. We actually, so when we started with Piggy Ball, we used 2D Toolkit, and we kind of slowly removed a lot of the features just because we had special needs, but with our particular project. But 2D Toolkit kind of has also gotten replaced a lot by Unity's built-in systems. Like they have added the tile map editor, so you can place down tiles and stuff. But 2D Toolkit does all kinds of nice stuff with animations, and like you can attach a hat to a character and have mount attachment points, and automatically moves things as they animate. So that's pretty cool. Corgi, the Corgi game engine is it's a 2D platformer engine, and we use it for Kentucky Dash. And we've again this has the code, and we were able to go in and kind of change out some of the core structure of how it works to work with what we're doing with Kentucky Dash. But it was a good starting point. And if you're interested in like platformers, you can kind of get a good idea of how those systems work. We use FPS Graph, which is it graphs the frame rate essentially. And we do that because sometimes it's easier to just have that running on the screen instead of using Unity's tools that slow the game down. So we use that. But another one that I saw that was free that just recently came out was this Graphy tool, which actually shows you memory and frame rate and all kinds of stuff. And it graphs it on screen while the game is running. So like if you're deploying to mobile, you can just have it running and turn it on. SR Debugger is another tool that shows you events. Again, when we're on mobile, it's nice to have just the user click on a button, and it brings up this graph that shows the frame rates, and it shows you which version of the operating system they're running, and what errors they're getting, and that kind of stuff. And one last one is this clean empty directories. We use Git. So Git will control all the files and stuff in the project. But if you move things around, it leaves the empty file or empty directories essentially if you move stuff. So this just goes through and cleans up all those empty directories in Unity, and kind of it becomes these extra files that you don't have to manage. So those are just some of the kind of assets that we use in our projects at Supersol. Thanks. I'll try to post. Yeah.